Salutations, friends! Welcome back to my channel. Obviously, if you clicked on the video, you know what today is. We are reviewing Italica from Xerjoff. There's a few things that I have to say first, and if you're familiar with my channel, you know what I'm about to say. Hi, transparency purposes. I was not given this bottle for free to review. This was something I bought. Now, I did buy this from a gray market site. I have talked about it in the past, my favorite gray market sites to purchase from, the pros and cons of each. I'll link that video below. But I do think that if I could not have purchased this at a discount, I would have paid happily full retail price. I have no problem paying full retail price if I have to. If I don't have to, I won't. But this is definitely one of the fragrances that I have no problem with justifying the price point. I smell it, I like the way it smells, I like the way it performs on the skin. There's everything about this I can understand the price point. Now that's my opinion, not everyone's gonna agree with that. But this is a gorgeous gourmand fragrance, and it has some beautiful, unique, not notes specifically, but the way this fragrance smells and develops is very beautiful and very complimentary in a way that doesn't smell like something you'd smell every day. And I love that about this scent. And that is what I'm going to get into in the review. So there's not a crazy amount of notes in this fragrance, at least the notes that everyone kind of talks about. I know when it comes down to fragrance formulas, there's a lot of things listed. So I'm going to talk about the notes that basically you see everywhere when you go to Lucky Scent, when you go to Harrods, when you go to Xerjoff. These are the notes that basically Xerjoff is like, these are the notes that are in there, but there's going to be a lot of notes that are not listed and accords that are not listed that are in here. There is going to be something that I'm going to talk about, and Sebastian, the perfume guy, Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews, I'll link his review of Italica below because he goes into it actually. He mentioned something and I want to answer his question. So if you watched his review of this, or if you're familiar with his review of this fragrance, I'm going to answer his question that I think. Anyway, so the top notes of this, you have saffron, almond, and there's like lactonic milky notes. At the heart, you have bourbon, vanilla, and toffee. And at the base, you have sandalwood and some white musks. Now this fragrance specifically is a gourmand fragrance. If you do not like gourmand fragrances, if you do not like sweet fragrances, if you do not like fragrances that smell like food, that are creamy, that smell like candy or desserts, this will not be your fragrance. Now I know a lot of times gourmand fragrances tend to lean more feminine leaning. And what I mean by that is when you smell scents that are marketed to women at the women's fragrance aisle, there are specific notes, specific compositions, and specific styles that are marketed to women, and specific notes, specific styles and compositions that are marketed to men. You can wear whatever you want, but some people feel more confident and attractive smelling feminine or masculine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you prefer to wear men's fragrances or women's fragrances, whatever makes you happy, you can also wear whatever you want. The way that this fragrance is designed, composed, it is a gourmand fragrance. It is a milky, sweet, slightly fruity scent. However, there is a nice deepness and richness to this fragrance, which we'll get into from the bourbon, that I feel anchors this definitively as a shared scent. There's nothing about this that makes it smell too tutti fruity in a way that you would find on the women's fragrance aisle, and nothing about it that smells too boozy or woody aromatic that you would smell on the men's fragrance aisle. So if you are looking for a gourmand fragrance and you prefer the style of women's marketed fragrances or men's marketed fragrances, I think you might enjoy this scent. So just letting you guys know. Now this is a lactonic, creamy scent, but it doesn't obviously smell like milk. And with almond specifically, almond can smell a variety of different ways. I love almond in fragrances. Almond can smell kind of like marzipan, it can smell nutty, or it can smell slightly woody and dry. And with marzipan specifically, and this is where I'm going to answer that I think, I'm not saying that I'm correct, but where I think Sebastian in his video, he was talking about a fruitiness, almost like a berry sweetness with this fragrance. I think the marzipan with the other notes is pulling like an apricot fruitiness. So sometimes with specific marzipans that I've tasted, specifically the higher end marzipans, the marzipans that you find in the higher end like pastry shops or the higher end places where you get nicer pieces of candy, where maybe that particular piece of chocolate's like $5. The marzipan itself has a fruity sweetness to it. If you've ever drank like cashew milk or nut milks that are very sweet, or used the fruit of the tree rather than the nut, there is like a fruitiness to the nuttiness. And that is what I think you're getting with the fruitiness in here. The almond is almost mimicking the fruitiness of a high-end marzipan, at least on my skin. I'm wearing this today because I absolutely love this scent. That's the sweetness and the fruitiness that I'm getting. It's not a specific fruit like a berry, but I can see it almost pulling blackberry or black currant, maybe a raspberry, as what Sebastian kind of said. But on my skin, it's pulling very much like almost apricot-y, and like the high-end marzipans do have that apricot-y fruity sweetness to them. And that is just my opinion, but I love that because that adds a beautiful elegance to the almond gourmand note to this fragrance. And that is what I'm looking for when I'm looking at expensive, higher end, very expensive bottles of perfume. This full retail price for this size is, I think on Lucky Scent, you're looking at spending like $305. So very expensive bottle of perfume, and you should demand something that smells amazing. Now, the nice thing about this fragrance is it has a lot of complexity without it being fussy. So when you spray this on your skin, you're going to get enveloped in sugar and sweetness. But if you don't like the sweetness of fragrances like pink sugar or the almost like the candy floss sweetnesses of the Baccarat Rouge family or all of its myriad of clones and dupes, if you don't like that molten, almost dry sweetness, that spicy sweetness, this is different. This has almost like a softer, richer, deeper, almost wetter sweetness to it that isn't playing on sugar, but playing on the flavors of sugar. And what I mean by that is like if you taste just table sugar, it just tastes sweet. But if you taste like sugar in the raw, it has a little bit of flavor to it. But then you eat, say, brown sugar, but then there's a difference in flavor between a light brown sugar and a dark brown sugar. And then you eat something like maybe different honeys and then molasses. There's a sweetness there, most definitely, but there's also a flavor. And with specific flavors of things, that's the smell that you're getting with this. So the toffee and the vanilla and the milky accords and this very beautiful, very rich, decadent almond note really comes together to create something that smells very beautiful and very complex, but it's not fussy or stuffy or feels too challenging or intimidating. It just smells really delicious and sexy and confident. And since it's not pulling sweet, like saccharine sweet, candy floss sweet, but more of a flavorful sweetness. It's like if you eat a dessert that doesn't taste sweet, but it has a lot of flavor. And that's what this fragrance is. There's a lot of balance in the different notes. The integrity of the almond, the integrity of the vanilla, the integrity of everything else has a balance, and it's not being overpowered by too much sugar, by too much cheap vanilla, by too much milkiness that can almost make a fragrance smell cheap. It smells really nice and rich and sexy and confident and decadent on the skin. Has a little bit of a green fruitiness to it, but it also has a nice, lush, just kind of gorgeous woodiness to it too from the sandalwood. I really like sandalwood in fragrances specifically because it is one of those notes that has a lot of integrity to it. It has a lot of distinctive nuances that you can pick up, but it also works together kind of like a mayonnaise that lets everything come together and smell its best, especially in beautiful gourmands. And it's done so just excellent, just perfectly in this fragrance. And what I like is that to its core, this is an almond fragrance, in my opinion. On my skin, from beginning to end, it is an almond dominant fragrance, specifically the pastry, tasty marzipan style of almond. But it doesn't have the power of, like, say, Jasmine's marzipan. It has more of a subtle, elegant, and classiness to it, which I really enjoy. Now, sometimes those marzipan fragrances can have a saltiness to it, which I really enjoy, but I like how this has more of a buttery, vanilla, toffee creaminess, but it doesn't smell like you just slathered yourself with butter. There's a tameness to this fragrance. There is somebody who is specifically like, I just need a little bit of this in here to balance it, to add emphasis to this note, to tame this note. And that is what I look for from Xerjoff. That is what I demand from Xerjoff, is well blended and well crafted. And they did so meticulously and perfectly to create a masterpiece of an almond and gourmand fragrance in Italica. What I also like about this scent is that from start to finish, you pretty much get the same thing. It starts off a little bit more fruity and it ends a little bit more woody on my skin, but you get that gorgeous, sexy almond from start to finish. I get about 6 to 10 hours on my skin, depending on time of year and where I apply it, and it has moderate sillage. So it has a nice performance for the price. At the end of the day, this is definitely a scent that if you are a gourmand lover, specifically vanilla gourmands, and also if you enjoy almond fragrances and luxury sexy fragrances, it's worth at least trying to find a sample or a decant or something to try on your skin. It's absolutely beautiful, and I think it is well deserving of all of the hype. Smell beautiful and sexy, Italica's gorgeous, but I am very happy to see and smell that Xerjoff is still creating masterpieces, and they can do it and they continue to do it. I just hope they do it more frequently. But this is a gorgeous scent, well worth the hype, absolutely beautiful, and a must smell. At least try to get your hands on a sample or a decant if you are an almond lover or a gourmand lover. So anyway, guys, that is my review and very long video talking about Italica from Xerjoff. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, this was a long, chatty video, but there are so many better reviews out there. I figured we would just sit and chat about fragrance today because I haven't done this in a long time. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I feel like I've been slinking and getting a little bit more comfy in this chair, so we're definitely going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.